Welcome to another FPL video, and well, at least there was no issues with the microphone this time round. But well, actually, let me not jinx. Let me double check this just in case. Let's see. Okay, it's all good. So it's good to see so many of you in the chat already. We're going to be talking about the Game Week 9 football and then looking ahead to Game Week 10. So be sure to let me know how you did this week and what your plans are for the future weeks. But there's quite a lot to cover. A great weekend of football, some big victories for Arsenal and Manchester City, and well, there's no title race, unfortunately. I can't say that. So let's go through all your questions and comments. Welcome to everyone. Welcome, Andy. I captained Maddison over Haaland, such a bummer, but we don't know what Maddison's going to do tomorrow, although I highly doubt he's going to match to 24 points by Haaland, which is absolutely ridiculous. I never expected that. I thought he could score 2 goals, but another hat-trick and a few assists on top of it. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous what he's doing at this point. Nabil says, I feel bad for choosing Zaha over Bowen. I disagree, to be honest. I know it's your personal feeling, and that's fair enough, and Bowen had a better fixture in Game Week 9, but I still think Zaha was the better pick if you're looking long-term, and I think he'll score more points by the end of the season. But those of you that had Bowen, fair play, and that's another kind of tick for the Game Week 8 wildcarders as well. Yeah, a lot of Maddison captainers, it seems, in the chat. 51 points, Maddison captain. The worst week of my life. Okay, let's take it into perspective. It's just FPL. I don't think it constitutes towards the best or the worst week of your life, unless you win it, unless you win the whole thing. But otherwise, yeah, 84 points from 1.1 million to 430k. That's a really nice jump with Maddison and Justin still to play. I was literally in a similar position to you, but I've actually gone down to 1.5 million, and it just shows the margins are tight. But with those kind of picks here and there, I mean, you can easily jump up the ranks, but it's quite tough because a lot of our teams will be very, very similar. So honestly, it's still a really good thing that you did. And I'm still waiting for one of those weeks this season. Any idea why Soufal was benched and if he is worth transferring out? I think it's just because they have other options like Carrere at the right back position, which you actually spoke about the other day, but I didn't think he'd take Soufal's place right now. And not to mention Johnson, who's actually the big concern I have going forwards in terms of Soufal's minutes. So really, if you want a nailed West Ham defender, just go for Zuma or cover them defensively with Fabianski. That's pretty much it. That's how it goes. Need to get Trent out of my team before his price crashes. I mean, look, I still think he's a good long-term option, but not for the next two against City and Arsenal. And look, they can get a result at the Emirates, but I don't expect them to keep a clean sheet the way they're playing. And I think Trent will be targeted by Martinelli. Even in the Carabao Cup, when I went to that game, Martinelli was actually doing a really good job against Trent. But in the end, Liverpool took control of the game. But I think it's a bit different this season. Captain Sal, I'm done with him. Honestly, I probably would have captained him as well this week, just because of the fixture, his record against Brighton, and also a way of clawing back rank. But I always say this, you know, I love the idea of a Maddison captain and stuff like this, but Haaland can go crazy, and if it goes wrong, it can go horribly wrong. And I've always said this, but I actually put Salah above Haaland in terms of the best captaincy options. So let's whiz through these because I realise I'm very far behind. Start Gay or Soufal in Game Week 10, says Patrick. Let me just have a quick look at the fixtures again and do a bit of a recollection. But if we go through the fixtures, it is a tough one. I think I would actually go... It's a tough one. I think I'd go for Gay. It's a really, really tough call, but I think I'd go that direction. I need to actually just get accustomed to these new fixtures for the next week. And there's going to be more content, by the way, over the next week. So stay tuned for that. And there could be a transfer tips video very soon. And also the team selection and all of that good stuff. There's also going to be a limitless team for UCL Fantasy tomorrow. And also a deadline stream on Tuesday. But let me just get the fixtures up on screen. And then we can go through them as well in detail. Yeah, so we'll open up a new tab here and we'll have the fixtures ready. So if you have any more conundrums or anything like that, I will be assisting you and I'm going to actually get used to the fixtures that I see. But yeah, I think I would go for Gay in this instance, but it's a very tough call actually. All right, so back to my performance here. Just a kind of brief recap before I whiz through your questions. I got 67 points, and apart from Haaland, captain, Martinelli, and Trippier, the rest blank. So it's been a horrible week for me, but in the end, I don't regret too much because the only thing that I was kind of 50-50 on almost was going for De Bruyne right now and then bringing him out for Son in Game Week 11. So I only lost out on 6 points there, and I don't regret the rest of my choices really. So yeah, it's a bit of a kind of misfortune for Mitrovic to come off injured so early and get a yellow card, and also for Anderson to be not in the squad. So he's a bit of a concern going into the future. But other than that, I'm still fairly happy with my setup, but not enough points really. And I've actually gone down from around 1.1 million, I believe, to 1.5 million. So I'm still shy of 500 points. And there you go. So welcome, Kev Mac. I was thinking of F1. Welcome, the 2K Viper. I've been doing well. What about you? Thank you for asking. Welcome, Eric. I feel bad for anyone who didn't put the armband on Haaland. Well, to be honest, no one expected 5 attacking returns for him, so I do also feel that way. And I don't feel that good being on the good end of the Haaland captaincy. Xhaka's going to be a differential in his new Gundogan role. Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's actually got more points, I think, than Saka, which is incredible. But I'd still be a bit cautious about that, and I wouldn't want to spend the Arsenal slot on him. And also, we've got the Game Week 12 blank to think about. Is Martinelli still a hold? I believe so. It's kind of frustrating because you've got options like Trossard now popping about, and he could be fantastic under the new manager. And we talked about this yesterday, actually. But I think Martinelli is still worth holding. But it just depends, really, because you've got the Liverpool fixture in Game Week 10, and I actually think it's good for Martinelli. But then you've got the blank in 12. So yeah, I still would hold him, I think, in most cases. Should we sell Mitrovic? We just don't know enough yet about his injury, and he could even be back in Game Week 10, and we'll obviously update you throughout the whole week, and we'll make a final decision. But right now, just keep. Don't make early transfers, and we'll get more information with the press conferences around Thursday and Friday, so don't rush that. If you were to replace him, then apart from Tony, you're maybe looking at Wilson, for example. You've obviously got Haaland and Kane if you can then upgrade to them. And then if not, Solanke, players around that price, and there's not really too much to offer there. Really didn't expect Herrera to do so well right back for Germany, and again yesterday. Yeah, I feel Sufa under the. I had Sufa under the impression he wouldn't get benched, but I'd take the West Ham dub regardless. Yeah, same here. I thought he wouldn't be benched for now, and my main concern was Johnson when he returns from injury. But Herrera did a good job. Even started a Champions League final as a right back, so he has experience in that position. Yeah, no news on Mitrovic. I believe if there is anything, then be sure to let me know and correct me. Evening all, rest in peace for those who didn't captain Haaland. To be honest though, even I captained Haaland, but the rest of my squad was so bad I got a pretty big red arrow as well. If I didn't captain Haaland, I probably would have deleted the game and shut down this channel, but there you go. Was watching the Leeds game. Rodrigo was good, to be fair. He was. Obviously, everyone just takes it at face value. It's a 0-0 draw. But Rodrigo was fantastic when he was fit, and now he's back, and he could be someone to consider again. And Sinistero got sent off. He was another one that was looking really good in recent weeks, even for Colombia on international duty. James or Thiago Silva? It has to be James, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Thiago Silva very lucky to stay on the pitch? James is a far better option, and I wouldn't just take one assist for Thiago Silva as he's a better option than James. No doubt. No, I wouldn't do that. I got 76 points. Yes, it's a good score, Raf, to be honest. I think you kind of can get caught up with people getting 90s and 100s, but that's still a good score in the grand scheme of things. Got 0 points from Trent and Mitrovic. I mean, this is what I mean. It's such a weird season, and Mitrovic has been so consistent, but that's now 3 blanks for him, 2 on the trot, and Trent has just not been anywhere near his best, and he's been targeted by every single team that faced Liverpool. Wow, fair play, Fionn. You had Bowen, and I think a lot of Game Week 8 wildcarders would have had the same advantage over people like me who just didn't really like the look of Bowen. He had 1 shot on target before Game Week 9, and it just goes to show you that sometimes the fixtures can cause the form to happen. So, FPL, there's no given formula, really, and that's just how it is. We can all guess, give our predictions. Sometimes we get it right, but there you go. Musiala or Kimmich for UCL? Apparently, there's news that Kimmich suffered from a COVID. I think he's got COVID, and he might be a big doubt for matchday 3. So honestly, it would be Musiala at this point. In normal circumstances, it would maybe be a different answer, but I think Musiala is the better one to keep. Pope, Iverson, Cancelo, Trippier, James, Soufal, Nico Williams, Mount, De Bruyne, Zaha, Trossard, Mitrovic, Haaland, Tony. Who should I replace for Game Week 10? You had Trossard. Fair play, mate. That is fantastic. Great hat trick for him. Who should I replace in Game Week 10 and start and strategy for Game Week 12? Okay, so let's look at the Game Week 12 strategy, so to speak. So you've got Cancelo, you've got De Bruyne and Haaland, and you don't have any Arsenal players. Okay, that's interesting. I don't think you really need to get any City players out necessarily, but if there was one, it would be De Bruyne, and you could go from him to Salah or Son in Game Week 12, so that would be the easy strategy there. You're in a good position. You don't have 4 or 5 Arsenal plus City players. You're in a good position. In terms of Game Week 10, I think you're looking good. It's just a bit concerning with Soufal now losing his spot, and Correa played so well, so Soufal can now be second choice. So he's someone I could maybe earmark, but I think Mount is the big one. I know he looked pretty good in the last week or so, but I think there are much better options around his price, and you can just go from Mount to Maddison, and I think you're well set to one. So my suggestion would be Mount to Maddison, and in Game Week 12, if you were to do anything, it would be De Bruyne to one of those premiums. You could even consider Sterling as well, or going for yet another mid-price midfielder, so to speak. 66 points for me. Bench Trippier for Justin, hoping he and Maddison can perform tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for that, because you might have had Pope as well, and they were facing Fulham, who have been fantastic all season, and Mitrovic, of course, has been incredible. So that's not a bad decision in my opinion, but I did tell most people, yes, I don't like the look of, double Newcastle defence and all of that, but Trippier always has the ceiling with the assists and the bonus points and all of that, and he was very fortunate, and all of us owners who started him, because he came off just before Newcastle conceded. What do you think of Kane and Foden from Game Week 13 onwards after the City blank? Kane's so consistent and Foden looks almost nailed as KDB. It's a bit of a tricky one, because Foden might seem nailed, but in the Champions League, he was actually benched for one of the games, and then you'd be thinking, well, that's good for FPL, right? But the opposite could happen, for example. And if they have a really tough game in the Champions League, City can actually play their strongest team, and really it's just Dortmund that is a tough opponent for them, so to speak. And then in that week, he could be rested in the Premier League. So I wouldn't say he's completely nailed. And KDB is also kind of rested from time to time, but it's very rare, especially compared to Foden, in my opinion. Of course, I could be wrong about that. But I think that's a really good suggestion, and I am considering something like that, and maybe even someone like Trossard as well, who is just incredible at the moment. But I think Kane and Foden looks like a really good duo, and perhaps better than the kind of Son and Tony duo that I was going for on the wildcard. 86 points for Maddison to go, really good stuff. You could maybe even get to 100 if Maddison gets a big return, but I think in the 90s is where you probably will be at. Rank went from 898k to 507k. You almost halved it. Fair play. Wanted to take Bowen out for Zaha, but given how lively he was, I think I will roll. This is the thing. People were asking me as well, should I get rid of Bowen for Zaha? And I actually said no, but only because Zaha was facing Chelsea. And on a wild card, I would have suggested to everyone to just go for Zaha and not book in a transfer. Now you're in a bit of a pickle, you could say, but it's a good headache to have, to be fair. After Game Week 12 is Xhaka's season, boys. Wow, you really are trying to jinx Arsenal. Maybe Arsenal are a threat then. Maybe Arsenal are a threat. Hey Dylan, hope you're well. On 83 points at the moment with Ward left to play. Basically meaning I'm finishing this game with 83 points or less. Fair play. I was going to say the exact same thing. Scores begin to matter after Game Week 10. Points are tied at the moment. I mean, it's not like a set game week where things start to matter. Every game week is important, and I think this season it might be more important than others to start well, but you are right, there's a long way to go, and we're not even 1/3 through the season, so that's a good point. Foden and Kane for Salah and Mitrovic from -4. I would wait and see the news on Mitrovic. I mean, I do understand the appeal of that because Salah's facing Arsenal and City, but then most people would want him from Game Week 12 onwards, so it's a double-edged sword, really. I like Foden a lot for Southampton, but remember, he's facing, well, he has a blank in Game Week 12, should I say. And if you already have Arsenal and City players, Jacob, I wouldn't recommend going for Foden right now. If anything, save those transfers for Game Week 12, or not Game Week 12, Game Week 13 onwards in this case, or go for another midfield instead of Foden for now and bring him specifically back in Game Week 13. Will Rodrigo be as good as he was? It's very hard to answer that. I would probably say no because Leeds haven't been looking as good recently, especially offensively. And I think there might be a bit more of a focus on the defensive side of things because they are really vulnerable at the back. So I think he won't be as good as he was, but that doesn't mean he won't be a bad option. I think he will still be pretty decent for his price. What's the latest on Anderson injury? I think he's got a calf strain or something like that. He definitely has a calf injury. We just don't know yet. He's at 75% status. So really, once again, it's just a matter of waiting for the rest of the week, like with Mitrovic, and then we'll see what the latest updates are. For 84 points, Maddison to play happy. I would be very happy with that score as well. And once again, like I said earlier, I think he could get into the 90-point mark easily. Disappointed with my FPL points, but on the positive side, really happy with City thrashing United, plus Haaland and Foden scoring hat-tricks. It's incredible, really. I don't think a Manchester City player's ever scored a hat-trick in the Manchester derby. Well, 2 of them have happened today. It's absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, I'm kind of in a similar position with Arsenal, happy with the Arsenal side of things, not so much with the FPL, but you also learn from these mistakes and also kind of maybe some 50-50 swings, and a lot of that happened as well last season, but you live and learn. 75 points, that's decent. Yeah, it definitely is. It's a good score this week, and a lot of the big kind of or most popular options didn't do that well this week, so that's a good score. To be fair, even though Bowen blanked in Game Week 8, he looked sharp, yes, and by far the best player. You could tell he's returning to the Bowen from last season, and we got a taste of it this game week. That is a good point. And also in the Conference League, I know he scored a penalty, but he did look better in those games as well, so that is a good point, Tech. Sufal started every game until yesterday, so I missed out on West Ham's clean sheet. That's the thing. I actually thought there was a good chance for a West Ham clean sheet yesterday, and that's why I had Sufal in one of my original drafts. I mean, look, you summed it up there, Eric. Sometimes these things just happen, and that's FPL for you. Switch for Maddison and Zaha to KDB or Kane, and Bowen for a -4. At the moment, I'd say Kane, because KDB blanks in Game Week 12, and I think there's a bit more of a chance of rotation for him, and Kane's never going to be benched, really. Zaha or Maddison? Yeah, Funzo, I will be refreshing the page. Thank you for letting me know. Zaha or Maddison? I think they're both great options, very similar level, and just like I said before Game Week 9, my preference would have been Maddison, but just about. What I like about Zaha, though, is that he's cheaper and he's on penalties. So I'll refresh the page here, and it'll add up to 61, but obviously the bonus points haven't been added yet. There will be, basically, all the bonus points will be by Haaland. I'll get 6 extra points for that, and I'll be on 67, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Once again, a pretty average week for me. Well, not even average, it was a poor week for me, considering my rank and how I've gone down. Do you think Haaland will get 40+ goals in the Prem? If he stays fit, that is going to be the big dilemma. And I think there could be rotation at some points when you have the FA Cup, you've got the Champions League in particular, the knockout stages, the really big moments. I think there could be rotation, but I think Haaland will score more than 30. I think he breaks the Premier League record this season. And I actually said in pre-season, I thought he'd start very well, but not this well. I never expected that. I don't think anyone did. And he's even better than we thought. The thing Salah is still putting up solid numbers. It's just Haaland is Haaland. Yeah, but also Salah isn't doing what he did last season. Imagine we had Salah from the last campaign and Haaland this year. It would actually be a close captaincy call because Salah obviously is favoured as the midfielder, so to speak. So it would have been a really nice dilemma to have, captaining Salah in his, absolute best version or Haaland right now. But there you go. Are you nervous about not having a third City player for next week? On paper, yes. And to be honest, I was nervous watching the game today, even before we saw how City started the game. But honestly, Southampton actually tend to do pretty well against City at the Etihad, but then we probably said the same thing about United in recent years. I think City will score once again 3+ goals. I think they broke the record of doing it 8 games in a row or something like that at home. I mean, they're absolutely unbelievable. So yes, not having De Bruyne will probably scare me, but there you go. Foden or Saka? At this moment in time, I'd probably say Foden. After his hat-trick today, and he's been very consistent. If you look at his returns, when he gets the minutes, he's just been doing so well. But I don't think you can go wrong with either, to be honest. They're both great options. Should we get Rodrigo back after his return? It's a wait and see. I don't think you need to be in a rush to get him in. I'd actually be more inclined to go for Trossard despite the fixtures. Should I keep Tony or sell for someone else? I would keep Tony. I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him, especially when you have the alternatives like Mitrovic, who could potentially be out in Game Week 10. So I wouldn't get rid of Tony. Trossard to Gross and Zaha to Diaz. I'm guessing it's the other way around. So Trossard and Zaha, you'd be getting them in. If that's the case, then yes, I would. But I don't think you need to rush the Gross to Trossard move necessarily, although if you base it off last game, Trossard is the go-to Brighton midfielder. I captain Salah instead of Haaland. We've got a lot of these today in the chat, and I would have probably done the same or at least considered it. But Haaland, I even said this in the stream yesterday, it's just hard to really find a valid reason, something that's, I don't know, convincing enough to go away from Haaland captaincy. At the moment, really, even against Liverpool in Game Week 11, I'm going to captain him. It's just Game Week 12 when he blanks. That's the one time you're safe with not captaining him at the moment. It's a bit of a shame, but there you go. Thoughts on Bruno Lage sacking? I mean, they are 18th in the Premier League, and they've been struggling for a long time, not just this season, but also the calendar year. What surprises me is that he's sacked before Brendan Rodgers, but that's obviously down to the finances at Leicester and other factors. I mean, look, it's maybe, I wouldn't say harsh, but maybe with a bit more time. I like to give managers time if possible. I mean, look at Arteta a few years ago. A lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, did want him out at some point, and look, he can change it around. And Bruno Lage is not a bad manager, but I think maybe Wolves just need more. Not just a new manager, but they need new players and a new brand, a style of play, and I don't know what they're going to get it from, They need to get the next appointment right, that's for sure. 57 points, 200k to 900k. I feel for you because You know, you probably had a really good team on paper. I look at my own team and I think it's pretty decent, but sometimes these weeks just happen and you just got to take on the chin and move on. Don't worry about it, mate. You were in a good position and you still are not too shabby. I mean, just think about it. You went down so quickly in 1 week. Well, you can actually gain that rank in the weeks to come. No one has scored a hat-trick in a Manchester derby for Haaland's yet. Yeah, exactly, Tech, exactly. Does our score right now matter for the end of the season? Every week is important, but no, where you are now doesn't mean you're going to finish here or below at the end, and you can still reach your goal. But of course, you have to start getting your act together quickly. And to be honest, FPL is a lot down to luck. There is skill involved with making good decisions, looking at the fixtures, and making informed decisions. But there is a lot of luck involved, so don't kick yourself about it no matter what happens, Isaac. Moyes roulette, with his improved squad. That's not really a statement I would have ever thought, you know, that would come out of your mouth or anyone's mouth, to be honest. I mean, yeah, Moyes roulette. And who would have thought that Soufa will be benched this week in particular? There you go. Also, Aubameyang, he did score and he looked pretty decent against Crystal Palace, but I wouldn't go for him. I don't want to be a bit boring. I mean, always, if you have a good feeling about a player, and I was asked about Aubameyang yesterday and I said no, you know, go for it. I don't want to discourage people from, you know, going for what they believe in, but I personally wouldn't go for him. I think there are better options. If Mitrovic is fit, he is one of them. Tony, you've also got Jesus, who I do prefer despite the blank in Game Week 12, and then you've got Haaland and Kane. So I think there's just better options, and I don't think it's worth going for Aubameyang, to be honest. I don't trust Chelsea enough. Skamaka, Martial, or Richarlison for Mitrovic. I wouldn't be in a rush to sell Mitrovic. He could be back in Game Week 10, so just wait for the press conferences. If he's fit, keep him. If he's out from those three, I'd actually be inclined to say Martial, but I don't know if he starts. If Martial gets the starts, I think he's the best option of the three by far as well. Maddison to Foden? No. I wouldn't do that, mate. Remember, Foden blanks in Game Week 12. If you already have 3 plus Arsenal plus City players, you know, you're going to be in a bad position in Game Week 12. Price rises have been on my mind. Try not to let that influence your decision-making, mate. And I actually don't have the screen on me, but I can bring it up right now. So if we bring up the price changes, so Trossard and Foden are about to go up, but Foden, what's his price? 8 million. I mean, 8.1 million. I think he'll still be quite affordable for most people, so don't worry about it too much. What's your overall UCL? If you check out my UCL fantasy videos, it's all there, the updated scores. I'm now around 2,000 in rank, so I actually went up from 10,000. So UCL fantasy is literally the polar opposite of FPL for me. Keep or sell Isak. I'm not sure what the exact updates on his injury are, but I probably would sell him. You know, unless he's going to be back next week or something, then you could consider keeping him. But honestly, I'd probably sell. You've got Wilson in there who scored at the weekend, and you've also got so many options around a similar price. Obviously, with Mitrovic being injured, it takes out one of the key ones of the equation, but I probably would sell. I'm thinking of dropping De Bruyne to Foden and Mitrovic up to Kane. Thoughts? I mean, I do like that, to be fair, especially long term. The only thing that I'd be a bit careful about is Mitrovic could be back in Game Week 10, and he's still fantastic value, and he probably offers better value than Harry Kane. Obviously, Kane will score more points, but Mitrovic has been really, really good. Wolves have limited options. Has to be a Portuguese manager who's aware they will most likely be sacked before the end of the season, yeah. I mean, Nuno Espirito Santo did a really good job at Wolves as well, but yeah, they just have this policy with Portuguese players and managers, and, you know, maybe think outside the box. That's what I would say. Do you think Isak will be back in Game Week 10? I'm not sure, to be honest. And even if he's fit, I think Wilson starts. Meslier with the 11 points against Villa. Who would have expected that? Exactly. It's just one of those weeks, Tech. And to be fair, I still wouldn't recommend Meslier. I honestly wouldn't. Hi, Dylan. I own Sanchez, Ward, James, Trent, Cancelo, Trippier, Botman, Martinelli, Maddison, Bowen, Andreas, Cafu, Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic. Have 2 free transfers and 0.4 million in the bank. I have no idea what to do. Not a bad situation to be in, to be fair. I think your goalkeepers, just right off the bat, I think they could do some improvement. Brighton could be fantastic under the new manager, but I still have my doubts defensively about them. So you could do Sanchez up to Pope, or maybe go to Pickford or Gaeta. That's where I would maybe look at. In terms of your defence, I think Botman is the only one I would change, because I would rather have Pope instead of Sanchez and then go from Botman to another budget defender, should I say. But really, the rest of your team is completely fine. Just wait for the news about, not Erling Haaland, Mitrovic. And if he's fit, I would definitely keep him. And your front line looks incredible. And I still prefer the likes of Maddison and Zaha instead of Bowen. But I wouldn't get rid of Bowen right now, of course. So really, when I look at your team, I would look at the defense and your goalkeeper, and I would look at changing that up a little bit and go for Pope instead of Sanchez and possibly another defender instead of Botman. So you've got 0.4 million in the bank. You would then have to downgrade Botman a bit. So I'm not sure if I haven't calculated in my mind basically, but you could go for Gay in for Botman and go for Pope in for Sanchez, but maybe you need a bit more millions actually. Is Wood starting tomorrow? I can't tell you for sure, but I think he will based on Roger's comments the other day. Oh, Jesus. Voice crack. Yes, I think you got what I said anyway. Alba's 10 times better than Alba, unless you're making an argument about price. I'm guessing you're talking about... Wait, Alba's 10 times better than Alba. I'm guessing you mean Jesus in that conversation. I'm not too sure. Isak and Mitrovic both injured in my team now, but I think both are worth waiting to hear on the injuries. Exactly, but I think Isak is one I'd be more inclined to sell, but just wait. Don't make early transfers. We've got the Champions League midweek. Do not make early transfers no matter what you do. He's used to Haaland for a -4. Oh, yeah, I mean, to be honest, at this point, it doesn't matter how many hits he takes for Haaland. I think it's worth it. Jesus could do well against Liverpool, by the way. I think he could get a goal or something like that, but Haaland's ceiling is so high, I would do it. Should we use Trossard because of his form? I mean, at his price and below, it's him, Rashford and Martinelli who are the standouts. And you've still got a few others that are looking pretty good like Gross. I think he's a really good option, but... it just depends who you're getting rid of, and, you know, remember, Trossard is playing Spurs next, and I think Spurs will produce a good response from their defeat, so I think Trossard, you mainly want to target him in the weeks to come, not necessarily right now. What a bad week for me. It was a horror movie, sorry. Took -16 hits, wow, and only to get 37 points. Oh, yeah. I've had weeks like that before, even worse than that, believe me. It happens to everyone, but obviously it does kind of discourage you a lot. But honestly, just keep playing your game. I would I would recommend personally not taking big hits like that. It's very, very rare for that to pay off. And hits, obviously, has the potential to pay off in the long term. But honestly, a -16 I think is far too excessive. Is Sterling a good go? I don't trust Chelsea enough offensively. I don't want to be boring, but really I just go for Chilwell, for Reece James, and maybe for Fofana because he's so cheap. But honestly, in terms of the attackers, you know, Sterling and Aubameyang are good options, especially Sterling. But I wouldn't go there. I still would look elsewhere. And De Bruyne, for me, if it wasn't for the blank in 12, he would be in every single team. Whenever I talk about midfielders, premium midfielders, I would just say De Bruyne because I think he is the best, and he showed it today again. Hi, Dylan. Is Tony to Wilson okay? It is okay, but Wilson's injury prone. Tony still has some good fixtures long term, quite mixed, but still I'd say pretty good in the grand scheme of things. And Tony has been far better this season. I would just keep Tony personally, but it is a good move because you're going to another good striker. I didn't know Meslier hauled. Don't think I've had a keeper haul all season. Now that I come to think of it, you know, I don't think I've had a haul as well. Maybe just clean sheets from Ramsdale and stuff at the beginning. And Nick Pope, no, he's not done anything for me so far in 2 game weeks. Yeah, really just Ramsdale with 6 pointers. I haven't had a big haul from a goalkeeper, and really it's the least relevant FPL position. I think they should try to, you know, give some points, more points for goalkeepers in a way. But, I mean, what else would you measure apart from saves? You're not going to put claims and stuff from crosses. Got Isak and Mitrovic. What's your opinion? Sell or keep? My opinion is to wait until the press conferences. At this moment in time, my gut feeling would be keep Mitrovic and sell Isak, but the injury updates might say otherwise, basically. Mbappe, Haaland, Jukla, Sane. So we've got a UCL fantasy question. Valverde, Bellingham, Florentino, Musiala, Carvajal, Davis, Matip, Diaz, Cancelo, Courtois, Adan for UCL. Looks really good. I'm not too sure about Courtois right now. I think they're about to play, if they haven't played already, Real Madrid. And I'll be keeping an eye on all the action throughout the weekend. But yeah, let me just check this. When do they play? Yeah, I think there was talk about Courtois being injured, by the way, so bear that in mind. Yeah, they play today. Okay, let's see. If I can get the lineup, that would be fantastic, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, they play in an hour's time, so the lineup should come out. Obviously, this is a FPL stream. We'll talk more about this in the deadline stream, but Courtois, I think, is an injury out, so that would be a concern, but the rest looks really good. Invincible season coming for City. It's possible, but, I mean, it's still really difficult for anyone to go unbeaten, and I'd still say no. I think they will get one loss, especially, let's say, in kind of these months where you have a lot of football, maybe even October, but more so I'm looking at January and February, especially after the World Cup. I think there could be a loss there for City, but who is it going to be against? They could be against someone completely unexpected, like a Southampton, something ridiculous, or it could be one of the kind of teams around the top of the table. But honestly, let's wait and see. I think they won't go unbeaten. Do you think it's worth taking a -4 with Salah out and Sterling and Bowen in? But what's the other player getting rid of? That's what I'd be looking at. But yeah, I mean, Sterling and Bowen looks pretty good, but I'm not that convinced about Sterling. And Bowen, he's had one really good game, but a bit like Son, is he going to do it week in, week out? And Bowen did show signs in Gameweek 8, as Tech said, but I would be a bit cautious about that. I know Salah's playing Arsenal and City, but then you might want Salah back in Gameweek 13, so it kind of goes round. I have Martinelli and Saka plus 2 free transfers, planning on taking out Saka for Bowen. Looks good to me, and I actually prefer Saka, but he blanks in Gameweek 12, so it's not a bad time to get rid of him, really. I'd only be a bit concerned in Gameweek 11 against Leeds, but I still prefer Zaha and Maddison over Bowen, to be fair. But if Bowen keeps on doing what he did in Gameweek 9, then I would definitely consider him. I don't have money left to replace Mount. What should I do? Already have Zaha and Trossard in my team. Okay, so if you don't have money... Oh, what's Mount's price? I was trying to think of that. So, maybe I overestimated Mount's price. I thought he was still at 8 million. I'm guessing he's then at something like... Let me get up a screen and check this for you. But, yeah, let's go to transfers. Let's check Mason Mount's price. He's 7.6. Wow, I thought he'd be at least 7.8. Yeah, I get your dilemma there. And you've got two of the midfielders I would have recommended. Martinelli, it's kind of an awkward time to get him, but I think he will do well in the next 2 game weeks. It's a tricky one then. I think when you're looking down the list, it's a tough one. It really is. You could take a punt on someone like Rodrigo. I think that could actually work, but it really is a punt, and normally I wouldn't recommend that. So you could just keep Mount for now, and I think he can get some attacking returns. But yeah, maybe wait for another week or so and do 2 free transfers and make a downgrade elsewhere to fund that move to Maddison. Is Diaz a sell or a hold for now? Just like I said last week and the week before, I think he's a sell. I know he came on and got an assist, but I wouldn't go for him at the moment. I don't have enough confidence in Liverpool and Diaz as well as an FPL asset. I wouldn't do that. Trent replacements, I mean, you can go to anyone really. So the defenders I really recommend are Cancelo, of course, Reece James and Trippier. But apart from those 3, long term, obviously I know they blank in Gameweek 12. Saliba for me is a really good pick. And then you've got a few others, but it's a tricky one. I think Trent replacements... Normally I'd say a second City player if you already... if you don't have De Bruyne and Haaland, for example, up front. But yeah... It's a tricky one. You really can just go to anyone, absolutely anybody. If I had to pick one player, and it's really tough, by the way, because there's not really any standout defences at the moment, apart from City, and even then, they looked a bit shaky today. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Even Kilman here, who I think could be a good option for you. What are Wolves going to do with their new manager? So really, what am I going to say? Long-term, probably Saliba. That will be my answer. And you can still go for Perisic, by the way, for Spurs. He could be another great choice. But there's not that many standout defender options for me. Ward Hall incoming. If that happens, I'll be absolutely done with this game, honestly. Foden a must-have? No, I don't think it's a must-have. I think that's a reactionary. Obviously, I know it's kind of easy to get caught up in all of this. He's a great option and even better than I expected, but I don't think he's a must-have. Captain Salah and took out Trippier and Jesus on the wild card. I mean, I don't really blame you. I took out Jesus as well. 1 yellow card away from suspension, and, you know, there was a good chance of it happening in the derby. And look, he scored, but it was literally just from a big mess up between Romero and Lloris. So, you know, these things happen, and sometimes luck is involved. He's a great option, and he offers great value, but I don't think that's a bad decision. Trippier as well. If you've got Pope already, I understand not wanting to double up on Newcastle defence. Salah scoring against Arsenal, I think so. I think it's possible. But I still think Arsenal have a good chance of getting a result there. Thank you, Ed. For the next game week, should I prioritise upgrading Gross to Maddison or Mitrovic to Kane? If Mitrovic is fit, so once again, wait for the press conferences, I will do Gross to Maddison. I think that's a bigger upgrade. Next week, who to captain? I'm sorry, it has to be Haaland. I hate to say it. If we go through the predicted points for UCL Fantasy, we'll talk more about that on Tuesday. For FPL, Haaland is top once again with 10.6 against Southampton. De Bruyne is second with 8.8, and he's going to be someone I'm going to be scared about not owning. Then you've got Foden and Cancelo, so it's almost an entire City top 5. Then you've got Bruno Fernandes in 5th. You've got James, Zaha, Sterling, Bernardo, and Salah. So yeah, for me, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, Haaland. If you want to go different, I would recommend someone like Harry Kane, but honestly, it's probably Haaland. If you want to go different as well, there's also De Bruyne, but yeah, that's my answer. It pains me to say it, but there's not really a captaincy debate at the moment. In terms of the fixture ticker, Crystal Palace now move top between game weeks 10 and 15. You've got Bournemouth and Villa also completing the top 3, and that's another clean sheet for Aston Villa. Something maybe to think about. Cash wasn't doing it for me when I had him at the beginning of the season. He's, of course, injured right now. Arsenal, Man City, despite being the top 2 teams in the country at the moment, they're both bottom in the fixture ticker. So there you go. Sell Martinelli or Foden or Diaz for Zaha? Diaz. I think Martinelli and Foden are great options. The downside to what I just said is that Martinelli and Foden blank in Game Week 12, and obviously Diaz doesn't. Tottenham versus Brighton can be disastrous to us owning Spurs assets. It's a tricky one. I think Brighton can cause problems to anyone, as they demonstrated yesterday and also last season against Arsenal, against Spurs. Yeah, it could be, but I think Spurs will still score some goals, but I think Brighton will also score a few. Trossard in, maybe not now, but to be honest, at his price and below, especially if you're looking at a Martinelli replacement, look no further. I think he's really good. He's even better than I expected, and we actually talked about this in the deadline stream, obviously before the game happened. We were talking about him potentially being the standout guy for Brighton under the new manager, and look, a hat-trick against Liverpool at Anfield is very rare. I have to say, Maximan thought he would make the game yesterday, but wasn't even on the bench. So did I. I thought he'd make it as well. Really think he would have hauled against Fulham. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised that Fulham lost 4-1. But yeah, say Maximan I think would have hauled. Diaz, Gross, KDB, Martinelli. Who should I swap, Dylan? Honestly, I probably would say Diaz from those lot, despite KDB and Martinelli blanking. I have 1.1 million in the bank. By the way, also trying to get rid of Ben White. Yeah, it makes sense. He's obviously got the assist for you for Partey's goal. And he's a good budget option, but with Game Week 12, makes sense. I would probably get rid of Diaz. Haaland won't play versus Southampton. I mean, we've said this all year, and he still continues to play. It could happen. It could happen. I don't dispute that, but I still think it's worth the risk to go for him as the captain. Sold Trossard for Maddison. Sad stuff. I mean, look, to be honest, though, that does make sense. Trossard had some bad fixtures. A new manager, you don't know what you're going to get, and Maddison has been looking great all year. Honestly, I don't really blame you for that decision. Best replacement for Sterling with 1.2 million in the bank, Zaha, Maddison and Martinelli. I mean, in normal circumstances, I would say Saka or Foden, but they blank in Game Week 12, so I would look elsewhere, and maybe you could go for Bowen, but just take it with a pinch of salt. He hauled once. It doesn't mean he's going to keep on doing it. Look at Son, 19 points against Leicester, then does poorly against Arsenal, a much better opponent. Do you think Antony's a good investment? He scored a great goal today, but I'm not too sure. I still need to see a bit more from him. And look, he's been looking really good so far in terms of the goals scored against Arsenal and City. What more can you ask for? But I think there are better options elsewhere. Point being, I fear Joe Willock, Almiron has earned their places for the next game. Yeah, that is going to be the big problem as well. And Almiron, I mean, he's actually right up there in terms of the high-scoring midfielders, which is ridiculous, but I still wouldn't go for him. Fixture congestion, Haaland will be rested versus Southampton. Yeah, I'm seeing a few people... Oh, sorry, you're the same person who said it. You could be right. You could be right. And we'll talk more about this throughout the week. Let's see what happens in the Champions League. If Haaland is subbed off early, which could happen, I think he has a good chance of starting at the weekend. So that will be important. Dropped from 41k to 109k with Justin and Maddison to play. Is it possible to get back? Of course it is, Cylinder. You know that. You literally went down by 68,000 places in 1 week. You could easily make that back up. And you're in an incredible position at this stage of the season. I think being around the top 200k or something like that, you're in a really good position. Martinelli versus Trent. I mean, I think Martinelli could destroy him. He actually did very well in recent games, and that's when Liverpool were, going for the quadruple and everything. But yeah, there's a different Arsenal team as well. And look, I think Liverpool will score a goal or two and maybe even win the game. But I think Martinelli against Trent, it could be carnage. It honestly could. Thoughts on going for Almiron as a differential? At that price and below, I mean, what's the risk? There's nothing to lose, but that's literally it. Just to have someone who you can rotate and sometimes bring on for those good fixtures. But I don't trust Almiron in terms of consistent attack and returns. However, having said all that, I think he's done really well this season, definitely. Hi, Dylan, what do you think of this move? Pope to Gaeta and Paqueta to Foden. I do prefer Pope for Gaeta, but the other move is a huge upgrade. And despite the Game Week 12 blank Soldier Boy, that would be the concern. Try not to have too many City plus Arsenal players by then. I think that looks good. White, Martinelli, Jesus, Cancelo, KDB, and Haaland will blank in Game Week 12. Should I free hit? No, I don't think it's worth free hitting Game Week 12. I understand the logic because then you'll have those players back in and you'd want them from Game Weeks 13 to 17. But you can trim your squad down in the next 3 weeks and you can go to free players. You can get rid of White, get rid of Jesus and KDB easily in the next 3 weeks. So I don't see a need to free hit, in my opinion. Yeah, just like with Jarhead, once again, I would try not to free hit in Game Week 12, even if you have 6 Arsenal plus City players right now. Is Carvajal nailed for Real Madrid? Yes, he is. He plays every single game at the right-back position. I'm not sure what the lineup is today, by the way. I'd have to check that. But yeah, I'll try and get up quickly, actually. And let's see if we can get the Real Madrid lineup. We'll also see about Courtois. Yeah, Lunin is playing today, so no Courtois. He is injured, I believe. Is he on the bench? No, he's not. And as for Carvajal, he's starting today. So yeah, Courtois is absent. That is a big blow. And of course, I recorded all these UCL fantasy videos the other day, and that's the risk sometimes with recording too early, so to speak, in a week. But yeah, Courtois would be the big kind of change in all my teams that I've talked about. The team selection, the limitless, and the wild card. Carvajal is nailed. Really crazy how Haaland is the most trusted FPL asset, guaranteed points with him. How many goals do you think he'll get at the end of the season? If you want me to give you an exact goal figure, I think 36. I don't know, but 34 to 36. That's where I'm thinking, and I'll go for 36. There you go. And yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I thought he'd start well, and people were saying, oh no, Harry Kane is, proven. You have to definitely go for him. And I actually went for Kane in Game Week 1 because of the fixture, and the plan was to then potentially move in Game Week 2 to Haaland, and it just backfired. I mean, Haaland is a must-have. He is the essential player. I hate that word, but he is essential for me. Best 7.3 million midfielder replacement needs to replace Paqueta. Zaha. If you don't have him, Soldier Boy, it would be Zaha. I'm ranked 1.6 million. Can I win FPL this year? I'd say the chances are very slim, but you never know. You never know. Stranger things have happened. You can still get a really good rank, by the way. That is, undoubtedly. But to win it, it would be very difficult, I'd say. Thoughts on Perisic? I think he is a great option. I think he is a great option, but not as good as I expected, especially when you look at the offensive underlying numbers in terms of the goals, the shots. I thought he'd do even better. And with Perisic, he's always kind of a rotation risk. So really, when you look at defenders right now, it's James, Trent, and you look at Cancelo. They are the standouts. And really, Cancelo and Trippier are on a league of their own at the moment. Then you've got Saliba as well, who's done really well. Still depressed of the Mercedes performance, is it? Yeah. Had high hopes after a quick, dry FP1. Yeah, I actually had I didn't want Hamilton to, get pole and win the race and stuff like that. I was actually genuinely concerned that he could get pole yesterday. And yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think Mercedes, they might not even win a race this year, but next year, I'd back them to step things up, of course. I already have James and Cancelo, best Trent replacements. That's the problem. This is what I mean. It's Trippier. That would be my answer to you. He's been so consistent. He was very lucky this week to get the points, but if you look at his returns, and let's actually go through this because, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. 7 points in Game Week 1, 7 in Game Week 2, 6 against City with the free kick goal, then 2 points and 0 points, okay? But then 8, 5, and 7. Look how consistent he's been, and that Game Week 9 haul is fraudulent. It really is, but he is probably the go-to defender. And look at his ownership, almost 50%. I mean, yeah, it has to be Trippier. Hi, mate. Would you captain Haaland? Yeah, at the moment I would, Brian. I would captain him in any game week where he plays. And where you can really make up rank is those game weeks where the captaincy will be open, like in Game Week 12 when City blank. Please don't spoil the Leeds Aston Villa goal scorers. Big plans to watch the replay. Okay, fair enough. Hi Dylan, what if Mitrovic is injured? Should we go Skamaka or Welbeck for anyone else around the price? Well, if he's injured, I know Skamaka obviously scored yesterday. Wait, I'm trying to get my days right. Am I getting there? Yeah, Welbeck got the assist as well, but honestly, I would rather just go to Tony. You've got Jesus, of course, who blanks in Game Week 12, and then you've got the 2 premiums. So if anything, you could use this opportunity to go to Kane up front and then downgrade one of your midfielders to someone like Trossard. So that's what I would be looking to do. If you still want a kind of cheap striker, I would probably go for Solanke. And if Skamaka can maintain that starting spot, I would recommend him. Content creators should apologize to FPL. The so-called premium defenders were not too cheap. Yeah, maybe that's the point. I mean, not every single content creator said that. I actually said it myself. I thought that they were underpriced. I still think Cancelo was, by the way. I mean, look at the value he's offering. But Trent, for example, I mean, now that we look at it, 7.5 million, that's way too much for him. But we wouldn't have said this last season or 2 or 3 years ago as well. Yeah, exactly, Tech. Kimmich is also out with COVID. There's so many things to keep up with, you saw fantasy. And yeah, ever since COVID happened, there's always something that can, happen in between games, and it's a bit frustrating. Is Cancelo worth holding? Of course he is. I mean, which defender would you go to right now? Maybe Trent in Game Week 12, but then you'd want Cancelo back in. Honestly, I would keep him. Who's the most nailed in UCL for City? Stones, Ake, or Akanji? Well, Stones is injured currently. I'd probably say Akanji is probably the most nailed. Who does not captain Haaland at this point? To be fair, though, if you want to make up rank, you have to try find ways to differentiate your team. And at this point, it looks like we all have to captain Haaland and then just change the other areas in our team at this point. But I don't think you, me, or anyone expected him to score 24 points. I think that is a bit harsh. And around a similar time last year, Salah went absolutely ballistic against Man United, whilst Havertz, who was another popular captaincy option that week, obviously blanked in a 7-0 victory for Chelsea. I think that was arguably a worse decision than captaining, I don't know, someone like Kane or Maddison this week. But there you go. It's all down to opinion. It's my first season of FPL and I'm on 507 points. Am I doing well? I think you're doing fairly decent. I don't know what rank you'd be at, but there's kind of a fine margin between all the ranks, and that's a pretty good start, to be honest. Do you think I should transfer in Trossard for Andreas, as he has a good record against Tottenham? He did well last year, that is true. But Andreas is still someone you can have to bench. If you want to go to a 5 midfielder formation, and you want to have 5 midfielders every single week, pretty much, then go for it. Otherwise, keep Andreas Pereira and get Trossard in for someone else. Lunin, good option for the UCL wildcard? I don't think so, because Courtois could be back fairly soon, and then Lunin will be rendered useless. He is a good option for this match day specifically. Not so much, I think, in the long term. It just depends on Courtois' injury. I'm not sure what it is. 74 with Wood left. Hopefully he plays tomorrow. Haaland is a beast. His stats are mad, and we're only 9 games in. But do you have another goalkeeper, Mickey, to cover for Ward? I'm guessing you do. But yeah, I wouldn't expect too much from Ward at this point. And Haaland, yeah, I mean, what more can we say about him? He even got the assist today, which he wasn't doing for the rest of the season. Do you think Doherty at 4.6 million is a good option as Emerson Real is suspended? That's a really good point, and we'll be talking about this in the transfer tips video potentially. Yeah, I think that's a really good shout, actually. He was fantastic, I think, between game weeks 27 and 32 last year before he got injured. He was fantastic. I think that could be a great shout. However, having said all that, I think Brighton score against Spurs. Thank you, Soldier Boy. I very much appreciate those kind words. Thank you. I'm joking. Watch the highlight packages. Fair enough, Cat. Fair enough. I mean, because sometimes, people do, want to do a kind of match of the day challenge. But then if you're looking at reaction or knee-jerk stream, you've got to realize there is a risk there. Foden as a 2-week punt over Saka was not such a good shout. Oh, such a good shout. Yeah, honestly, fair play to you. I would have gone for Saka over Foden, because Foden isn't as nailed as Saka, and Foden never scored against United, I think, before today. So there you go. Fair play, mate. Captain Salah, honestly, I probably would have done the same thing. I actually put him above Haaland in the captaincy ranks. I put Haaland second, I think. There you go. At this point, let's not talk about captaincy anymore. Just captain Haaland, and it's just boring. On Game Week 8 wildcard, it's gone so well. Yes, it has. I'm assuming you had Bowen as well, and that is also another key difference maker between you and me and other Game Week 9 wildcarders. How do I get Cancelo? I already have Edison, Walker, and Haaland. Well, honestly, I would just do Walker to Cancelo, but Abhinav, if you also got Arsenal players, you're in a big problem potentially in Game Week 12. So maybe just avoid going for Cancelo for now and bring him in Game Week 13. And I would get rid of Walker and also Edison, to be honest. So I would keep Haaland, maybe someone like Martinelli, whoever you have from Arsenal. But I would look to sell Edison and Walker for sure. Would you prefer Bowen or Foden in with Kane? Foden. But it's kind of a tricky one because Bowen plays in Game Week 12, Foden doesn't. So maybe what you could do is go for Bowen right now and bring Foden in Game Week 13. But I have to say, for me, even with a blank in mind, I'd go for Foden. Last year, Game Week 9, I then captain Salah against Man United and he got 24 points. And this year, Game Week 9, I then captain Haaland against Man United and he got 26 points. I think in the end he got, I need to double check this by the way, I think he got 24, Erling Haaland. If we check here in livefpl.net, No, he got 23. He got 23, so yeah, that does make sense. Yep, so he got 23 points. Salah, was it 24 last season? Damn, it just shows you the advantage midfielders have over forwards. I think they should try to rectify that a little bit. That's just my personal opinion, though. And also, Salah isn't technically a midfielder, so it's definitely an unfair advantage. But at this point, Haaland, I mean, he can have a 10-point deficit with other positions and other players. He'll still probably outscore everyone. Let's see, what else do we have? Brion Tan says Pope, Dallo, Nico, James, Cancelo, Trippier, Maddison, Bailey. Oh, Jesus, sorry. Martinelli, KDB, Andreas, Haaland, Mitrovic, Tony. It sounds like I'm crying when I've got the voice crack. With 2.5 million and 2 free transfers. Want to make some minor changes, but I don't know what. Okay, I'll be thinking about this, don't worry. I'm just having a sip and try not to die. Okay, so I like your goalkeeper. You've got a good defense overall. And honestly, apart from James, Cancelo and Trippier, the rest look pretty terrible at the moment. Saliba also looks good, but he blanks in 12. Your midfield looks fine. However, I would try to bolster up a little bit. So you've got 2.5 million in the bank. I would do Bailey up to Zaha, and I think you'd be 0.1 million short. And if that's the case, I would then do Dallo to another defender. Or if Mitrovic is out, you can downgrade Mitrovic. So I think that's the perfect way to upgrade your team, Tan. Let me know what you think. Do you think Verstappen will get the championship in Japan? I'm not sure what the permutations are, what needs to happen for him to be champion, but I'm guessing he just needs to win and the others need to finish in a certain position and below. Might be fourth or something. If that's the case, then maybe not. I think it might be the race afterwards. But yeah, he's going to win it anyway. It's just a matter of time. Thoughts on Firmino? He's been Liverpool's best player by far. Really good point. And honestly, I would have said no after Firmino did, 2 goals and 3 assists against Bournemouth. But he's been great this season. You know, you have to say that and recognise it. But I always have Jota and Diaz at the back of my mind. And Nunez, should I say, playing in the forward positions. But I have to say, he's someone worth considering. I'm ranked 600k at the moment. I think that's a good rank to be at, Yusuf. And honestly, considering you never played before, and I think this is probably one of the toughest seasons with such a strong template, Haaland being, just ruining the captaincy overall. I think you're doing really well. Will Cancelo have minus points for causing penalty as well? No, that only happens in UCL Fantasy and World Cup Fantasy and all that. It doesn't happen here. Bruno Guimaraes, not as an option for me. He did pretty well in between January and May last season, but I wouldn't go for him. Liverpool are in the mud. Do you think they'll come back, or are they done? I mean, they play Arsenal next, and I think they will, give Arsenal a good match. And I think, they still are the better team overall. It's just this season so far, there's kind of levels between them. But I still think they'll get 2 goals against Arsenal, something like that. I can see that happening. But they could also concede 3+. Their defense is absolutely shocking, but their attack is still relatively decent. Not to mention how unreliable their players are for FPL. Yeah, at this point, I still like Salah and Trent, but I need to see much more. And I said this, and that's why I didn't go for them on the wild card. I need to see more from Liverpool and these assets before going for them. They're too expensive at the moment. Maddison captain on 71 points. Looks good, mate, and hopefully it pays off for you. Imagine if you captain Haaland, obviously. You can always say this, but hopefully Maddison does really well for you. If he gets 20 points, I'd be very happy with that. Even more than Haaland getting 23. Best captain day 1 in Gameweek 3. I covered this in the videos, the team selection and the wild card. Sane for me is the best one in match, or Tuesday, on the Tuesday in match day 3. And on the Wednesday, I think the best one is Haaland. That's pretty much it. Estupiñán looks way more attacking with the new manager. Estupiñán isn't a good defender, but he is good going forward. He's very quick, he's strong, and I think he could do really well. But is he going to be nailed on in that team? I'm not sure. But I think he'll play at least 70% of matches, let's say. And Trossard, for me, is just, he's looking incredible. Was about to do Foden to Bowen. Bowen did well as well. Imagine if he had both, and I saw people with both, and honestly, fair play to those of you. And to be honest, Foden and Bowen owners, you might have had cold feet on Bowen, for example, but there you go. Hi, Dylan. Do you think Salah will be back to his form soon? When we talk about form, I don't think he'll reach the heights of last season. What he did in the first half of the campaign is unbelievable, and it's kind of what Haaland's doing now. But Salah also had more of an all-round game, you could say, with the assists and stuff like that. I don't think so. I think Salah will be good. He will be quite consistent with the goal contributions and get 200 plus FPL points, but I don't see him getting anywhere near 300 FPL points, which I thought he would last season. Yeah, Firmino is looking really good as well. Is a -8 hit worth it for Eriksen and Pickford? To get those 2 options, no, I don't think so. Eriksen's a quality player. not an FPL asset for me. Pickford is a good choice, but don't take hits for goalkeepers. I talked about this in the Game Week 8. Was it the Game Week 9? I'm trying to remember now. It's such a long time ago. I think it was the Game Week 9 team selection video. After Game Week 8, I took a hit for Pope. It didn't pay off. So honestly, don't take hits for goalkeepers. Do I start Estupinian, Gross, or Andreas? I would start Gross from those three. 1.5 million to 3.5 million on a wild card. Would I have had 60 points more if I haven't wildcarded? 60 points more? That is unbelievable. I mean, look, mate, I feel for you. I also suffered a rank drop. Not as severe as that, but you got to laugh these things off, mate, honestly. I mean, you probably made some good decisions on the wild card, and sometimes it just doesn't pay off. But I'd be patient about it. Don't worry about it. And let's actually look at a few other stats to cheer us up. And yeah, look at this. Top 10k captains and Haaland's top. It's getting boring, isn't it? I mean, I hate to say this, but I want different captaincy options. And actually, if FPL said, you know what, we're removing the captaincy, I'd actually be very happy with that. For this season, at least, because this guy is unbelievable. Can Barcelona or Real Madrid buy this guy maybe next year? It would be great. Especially for the rest of the league, give us a chance. But yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, is there any debate? I mean, look at second place. Salah with 16%. Tony third with 2.84%. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Everyone's captaining Haaland, and it's boring. It really is. Welcome, Hennig. It's good to see you. Welcome, Priya, as well. Took out Foden, Kane, Jesus, Martinelli, and Captain Son on a wildcard, 50 negative point swing. But to be honest, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You got Salah, who most people would want from Game Week 12 or 13 onwards. You got rid of Martinelli and Jesus, who blank in 12, and Martinelli, or should I say Jesus, was one yellow card away from suspension. Harry Kane as well. I mean, he got a penalty, his customary penalty in the North London derby, but, you know, that can happen, of course. Taking out Foden, who's never scored against United, I don't really think that's a bad decision. So honestly, I think you've been hard done by. Yeah, then I have Martinelli and Odegaard. Both need to sell at least. I'd sell Odegaard. I'd keep Martinelli personally. Also got rid of Walker and Edison, and I don't really want to keep my money on Trent. Yeah, I get your point, but I think getting rid of Walker would be a bigger priority for me than Trent Alexander-Arnold, because Trent could be a great option from 12 to 17. I'm going on one top player, Haaland captain every week, so not willing to pay over 12 million on other players. Yeah, exactly, and that's why I then go for Salah as well, unless he showed some really good form and stuff like that. But he isn't doing it, really. He got an assist, but it's not enough. What to do with Mitrovic and Anderson? Honestly, wait for the press conferences. I don't think it'll be anything serious. If Mitrovic is injured, of course, sell him. The same goes for Anderson, but Mitrovic would be the one that you'd be more inclined to sell if he was out. You with Anderson, you can afford to keep him for another week or so. But honestly, I probably would keep them at this point. Zaha, Trossard, Maddison. All fantastic options, and I still prefer Zaha Maddison, but Trossard looks scary under the new manager. Obviously, it's just one game. He was up against Trent, and, you know, Liverpool are awful defensively, but still, I think they're all great. I mean, I'm looking to get all three of them in my team. I've got two of them. Trossard could be added in the weeks to come. Diaz is the best Liverpool value. At this point, probably second behind Firmino, who's looking incredible, but yeah, you're probably right. I don't think it's worth going for him over Maddison, Trossard, Zaha, as Miniland said. So, yeah. Anthony is cheap. Yeah, I'm not sure what his price is exactly. I think he's, 7.5 million or something. But why go for him when you've got those other three I just mentioned as well? So, we've gone through everything we need to, really. Let's see. So, yeah, we've got the fixtures here as well, which we've covered. We just changed the screen here. We talked about the price rises. It looks like Foden is about to go up, and there was one other player. I'm trying to remember now. Let's have a quick look, shall we? Let's have a quick look. Trossard, what a surprise, after a hat-trick. But he is facing Spurs next, so let's be careful. I don't think he's getting another hat-trick next week, that's for sure. And look at Trippier. He's about to go up again, and he's been great this season. I never expected Trippier to be this good. And, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable what he's been doing. And it's not like Newcastle have been absolutely great. They've only got 2 wins all season, but there you go. It just shows you. And such a weird season, you know. You've got the likes of Trent and Salah not really delivering. Haaland's ruining the game as well. 101 with Maddison to go, Bowen and Foden, the heroes. Fair play, man. That is a fantastic score. And just enjoy it. Honestly, enjoy it. Do I switch Maddison or Bowen? Switch to Maddison or Bowen? Maddison. Still Maddison for me. Welcome, Akraf. Is Saka to Zaha a good move this week? I believe so, but I think Saka will get a return against Liverpool personally. But it still is a good move in the grand scheme of things. KDB and Gross to Sterling and Foden. I mean, look, I'd probably say no. I do understand why you're doing it, and Foden is easier to bench, so to speak, in Game Week 12, but I'm not sure. I still prefer KDB and Gross, actually. What would be good is you can't captain a player for more than 10 times a season. That's a good suggestion. In F1, you can't captain players over a certain price point. And whilst that is good in some ways, it also is quite restrictive, and you always have to captain the kind of same old 3 or 4 drivers or players. So that is also a really good suggestion, actually. Welcome, Judy. Had a great week with 80 without keeper and bonuses. You got no goalkeepers at all? Do you still have Ward left to play or something? But honestly, that's a really good score. For those who still have the wild card, which game week would you recommend to use it? Probably game week 12 or 13, but it will vary depending on your team. Zaha or Rashford for this week? Let's go back to the fixtures. So Palace against Leeds, and you've got Rashford against Everton. It has to be Zaha. Honestly, it has to be Zaha. Van Dijk is slow, and Jesus will toy with him. No, Van Dijk is still a great defender, obviously, this season, and ever since he came back from his injury, he hasn't been to the same level, even if you look at the Champions League final. But I think people are, reactionary. People go from calling him the best centre-back of all time in the Prem, or they say he's useless and stuff like that. I think the truth lies in the middle. He's still a great centre-back, but he's not at the same level he once was. And he might never be the same again, After suffering an injury like that, it's so hard to recover that pace. And look, Jesus has been great, and his finishing does frustrate me at times, but his overall play is really good. He dribbled past 3 or 4 Spurs defenders in in yesterday's game, and look, Jesus could do really well, but Van Dijk could still have a decent game. What is Brighton's style of play under the new manager? Well, in his first, I think, press conference or statement for Brighton, literally, he must have said the word attack like 5 times or something like that. So his policy, his style of play is offensive. I don't think their defensive assets will be that great. But what I think is that they're going to be on the front foot and give teams a good game, like Liverpool yesterday. And I think they might need to be a bit careful against teams like Spurs, because Spurs will sit back, counter-attack, and I think they'll get some joy. But pretty much the key word is offense, attack, and that's what I think you're really going to have. And I think Trossard, especially on the left-hand side, I think he's going to be key to all the attacks there. I mean, he showed it yesterday, of course, but even after, or should I say before the game happened, I was talking about this. For me, Trossard looks like the best option under the new manager. But of course, we have to see what happens first before, making these concrete statements and stuff like that. Haaland, the most expensive FPL forward next season of all time, for sure. I mean, yeah, we're looking a bit too far ahead now. I think he'd be 13 million, 13.5. I mean, at this rate, he could be 14, because he's operating at a Ronaldo, Messi-esque level in terms of goal contributions. I think 14 million wouldn't be out of the question, but because he's a forward, I think it would be toned down. And FPL want you to also have Haaland in your team, basically, so they won't make him, ridiculously overpriced like 15 million. I think he'll be 13.5. Or can't captain 2 weeks in a row. Another great suggestion, Frederick, honestly, and I'd love to see it happen. Only problem is that I don't have the money to get Cancelo for Walker. Yeah, of course. And in that case, look, you can do Trent out for Cancelo, but I would get rid of Walker. I honestly would. Start Carvajal or Valverde for UCL Fantasy. Tech, remember that you can start both. I'm not sure if... Wait, did they play on the Tuesday? No, they play on the Wednesday. So, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen yet. But if you have 2 players who blank Tech, for example, and you need to bring these players on, just bring both of them on, and that's it. If I had to pick one, it would be Carvajal, but you've got the option to have both in your team. I wildcarded to that Salah drop. Yeah, I feel for you, Amir. I feel for you. I think Salah's not a bad choice. He got an assist after all, but, if you captain him especially, the pain is there, because Haaland is Haaland. Pope, Cancelo, James, Trippier, Saliba, Perisic, Martinelli, De Bruyne, Zaha, Saint-Maximin, Andreas Mitrovic, Tony Haaland, 0.4 million. Where do I go from here? Well, Mitrovic might not be out, Edward. He could still be available, so just wait for the press conferences. But I would get rid of Saint-Maximin. And honestly, you could do Saint-Maximin to Trossard. I think that looks great for you, mate. That's what I would do. Keep Mitrovic for now. Don't make the transfers early, though. I know Trossard's about to go up in price. If you really want to go for him, then do it. But I would try to... I would urge caution and do the transfers late, and basically what I'm recommending is getting Trossard in for Saint-Maximin. With Madison to play, I'm gassed. Yep, I mean, I've seen a few 101-point scores in this stream. I mean, it's ridiculous, and you could get to 110, honestly. Zaha or Bowen? Still Zaha for me. Martinelli to Trossard, Rodrigo, or keep? Good question. I would keep, but honestly, Trossard looks fantastic, and he would be the one. If you were to get rid of Martinelli, I would go for him. I'd go for Trossard. Bought in Gordon in Game Week 8 to be a differential, been disappointing overall. He was doing really well in the first few game weeks, but Everton aren't that great offensively, and Gordon isn't a trustworthy FPL asset, in my opinion. I'm not going to lie, bro, you should really consider getting Bernardo or Foden. Yeah, I mean, look, I had De Bruyne last week, and I wanted him on the wild card, but with the Game Week 12 blank, I didn't want to booking a transfer, so I went for Son. I mean, look, from Game Week 13 onwards, yes, I will consider it. And Bernardo Silva has been fantastic. And I actually talked about this yesterday. I wouldn't have recommended going from Bernardo to Zaha or these other midfielders because he has a good record in the Manchester derbies. So, yeah, I think Foden is one I'm looking at. If not, it would be De Bruyne, of course. But there you go. How does F1 Fantasy work? They don't get assists or goals or anything. Basically, so in the race, if you win the race, for example, you get 25 points in the championship. Well, that's actually reflected in the game. So you get basically the amount of points you would get in the championship. So if a driver wins, they get 25, 18 for second place, 15 for third place. And that's how many points your fantasy asset gets. You can turbo drive, so that's the captaincy. It doubles their points. And they also get points for qualifying. And not only that, they also get streaks. So if they finish 5 races in a row in the top 10 in qualifying, they will get 5+ points if they do it. And they will also get 10+ points if they do it in the race, 5 races in a row. So there's actually quite a lot of different ways to get points. There's also sometimes sprint races where you can also gain up to 10 points, I think, for finishing first. So F1 Fantasy has actually quite a lot of different point systems. You also lose points if you DNF, so if you do not finish the race with mechanical failures or stuff like that. So there is sometimes luck involved, as it is with all fantasy formats. 88 points, and now overall rank is 36k. That's really good, mate, and that's a fantastic position. I can't understate that enough to be in at this stage of the season. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but I'd love to trade places with you, mate. Mitchell, a good option. Not a bad choice, of course, but I do prefer Anderson and Gay, but Mitchell's also a good choice. Tarquin, let's wait and see what with Mitrovic. You know, he might still be available for Game Week 10. I am going to keep him for now, and if he's fit, you know, that's not going to change. If he is out, then I would actually consider the possibility of going to Kane and then bringing in Trossard in the midfield or something like that, or Phil Foden, something like that. But honestly, I probably will be keeping. Should I get Kepa in just for this week instead of Pope? If you're going to wildcard straight after that, then fair enough. But just bear in mind, a 1-week punt on a goalkeeper is kind of rare for that to work. In your opinion, will Haaland break the Premier League top scorer this season? Yes, I think so. And like I said earlier, I probably would say 36 goals if I had to give an exact figure. I think he's breaking the record. But injuries, let's wait and see. I don't know how double game weeks work, and I wanted to ask that in double game weeks. How does triple captain work? So a double game week, you will see it in FPL. You will see 2 fixtures for your player, and you will earn points for both games in that single game week. And that's why it's a really good opportunity to bench boost, also to triple captain. That's what we tend to do in all of these seasons. We always do that. We look to target these double game weeks, and Haaland is obviously going to be the go-to, the triple captain of choice, and I'm very curious to see what he can do in a double game week. And yeah, triple captain, it triples the amount of points your captain gets rather than doubling it. So if a player gets 20 points, they will get 40 with the normal captaincy, but 60 with the triple captaincy. Yeah, RVP was 40 million back in the day. I didn't play FPL back then, to be fair, but yeah, I actually didn't know that, so thank you. Whoa, Chamboy, relax, okay? It's a big red arrow, but it's still possible to recover. I have 1.2 million left in the bank. Who is a better option for Saka? I would probably say Maddison, Zaha, Trossard, and another one is Foden. But honestly, I think you could keep Saka for the next 2 and then maybe get rid. Once again, you know, there's a lot of selling Mitrovic questions. I would keep him for now. If he's out, then you can go up to Kane or maybe go to another striker around a similar price like Solanke, but I would keep Mitrovic for now, and look, he could be back in Game Week 10. Is Sterling to Bowen a move you would do? Yes, I think it is, because I don't trust Chelsea enough to spend over 10 million on a Chelsea offensive asset, to be fair. Will Isak be back next week? I'm honestly not sure, but even if he's available, I don't think he starts because of Wilson. Keep Ward-Prowse or get who? I would sell him, and I would go to Trossard probably. If not, you've got Maddison and Zaha, who I always recommend. Would you sell Saka for Foden or Zaha? I'd go to Zaha, and you can always bring Saka or Foden back in Game Week 13 for another midfielder. I think Zaha's a great pick. Mitrovic replacements. around a similar price as Solanke, but really, you know, the one I would say if you don't have him is Tony. He is the, you know, the best option by far. And another one is Wilson from Newcastle. And if not, and something I'm looking at potentially if needed, is to go up to Kane and then get a really cheap midfielder or a relatively cheap midfielder in for Son. Yeah, I'm happier than Captain Salah, but that transfer is for the long term. Exactly. It is what it is. And I still think Salah is a good option. It's just he's not worth that price. Is there anyone who is still buying Ronaldo in their team? I mean, we can check his ownership. I think it's only 1%. Let's check this. His ownership is 2.4%. And yes, there will be people bringing him in, of course. Some people just look to jinx. I know people like that. They bring in players just to jinx them when they're playing their team and stuff like that. So maybe that's why. But he's not even getting game time at the moment. And obviously, look, it doesn't matter if you're a Messi or Ronaldo fan. You do want to see these players get the game time before their careers end. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today, and we've got over 200 people watching. It's much appreciated. If you haven't already, be sure to drop this video a like, and let's get to 15,000 subscribers. We're actually very close to that milestone, and we might just be over 100 away from achieving that. So yeah, we're 130 subscribers away from 15,000, and let's try to get this stream to as many likes as possible. But the first big kind of milestone for this video is getting to 100 likes, and it'd be very much appreciated. Thank you to everyone who's already done so, and be sure to check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, the FPL League, and the Discord server. And thank you, as always, to all the members and channel and patrons, should I say. So yeah, we're kind of caught up almost, so let's go through this as well. For those who still have the wildcard, which game would you recommend? Game week 12 or 13, but once again, it's going to vary depending on your team. I can't speak for everyone, but I'd say game week 12 and 13. Is it time for the wildcard use? It might be for you, but I think for a lot of people, it would be game week 12 or 13. Yeah, once again, Haaland. Yeah, I actually know a City fan, and every time he scores, he sends the video of the Haaland song to the chat, and obviously it's getting to a rate where he scores every single minute, so yeah, it's kind of ingrained in my brain. Mitrovic to Wilson. I have 2 free transfers. I'm thinking Martinelli to Trossard or Gross, or do I roll the transfer? Well, obviously rolling it means you're burning, so you're not going to have free transfers basically, Ayub. If Mitrovic is out, yes, I would go to Wilson, but otherwise just keep him and you can make a transfer elsewhere. Martinelli to Trossard is a great long-term move anyway. Yeah, F1 Fantasy sounds fun. It is, to be fair. My issue with it is the captaincy, because everyone captains the same players. Leclerc, who now is over 20 million, so we can't turbo drive him anymore. So now it's literally just Carlos Sainz or Sergio Perez. You know, then you've got the kind of best drivers, Verstappen, Hamilton, and Leclerc, and also Russell. They're all over 20 million. So yeah. When do we triple captain Haaland? When he has a double game week? To be honest, whenever he has a home game, just captain him because and triple captain him because that's now 3 hat tricks in a row in home games. It's absolutely ridiculous, and he's also got 3 hat tricks in 8 Premier League games. Jesus Christ. What's the best ratio of Tuesday, Wednesday players for UCL Fantasy? 8 to 7 is always the ideal one, Tech, but also 9 to 6 is fine. That's completely fine as well. You don't want to be in a position where you have 3 Tuesday players and then you have the rest of your squad, your 12 other players playing on the Wednesday. That is what you want to try avoid if you can. Do you think Mitrovic will not play next game? It's too early to tell. I'm not sure exactly what his injury situation is like, but I think there's a chance that he's featuring again at the weekend. So I just wait and see for the from the other day that he's got an injury problem. I don't know exactly what it is, so it is a bit of a shame. Trossard last 5 matches, 5 goals, 2 assists. Yeah, but obviously a hat trick. You know, he scored a hat trick in the last game, so otherwise it would have been 2 goals and 2 assists in 4 matches or something like that, which is still good, by the way. But of course, look, under the new manager, I think he can actually take his game to another level. From 200k to 1.2 million. Well, yeah, but Haaland can always do that too, to be fair. And look, you're still not in the worst position in the world. You were at 200k, so it means you can easily get back to it. Well, okay, relax here. You know, it would be good for the league if Haaland, you know, took a rest or something, but for him to be injured, that's a bit too much. Will Mitrovic start next week? I believe so, Max, but honestly, it's too early to tell. I don't know the information, and we're going to have, obviously, he's going to have some multiple tests, and they're going to have late fitness tests and all of that. They're going to try to get him back because he's so important, but honestly, let's wait and see. Thank you, Soldier Boy, for the shout-out. Would you keep City assets for the Liverpool game? Of course. I mean, the way Liverpool are playing, I think City could put 3 past them at least. So, yeah, I would probably keep them. The problem with City assets is Game Week 12, the blank. So then I'm guessing many people wildcard before the double game week and then activate bench boost. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you're catching on really quickly. That's a perfect summary. And yes, that's a really popular strategy in a lot of weeks. Then they bench boost in the following week. Or they triple captain, yes. Obviously, you can't play 2 chips in the same week. But yeah, triple captain to get the most out of it. Yeah, you pretty much summed it up really, really well. Bernardo to Zaha this week or wait till Game Week 11? I would probably do it now, but Bernardo Silva's been really good, better than I expected, and he's been so consistent. Thank you, Ricardo. Plan to wildcard in Game Week 13, best replacement for Cal Walker. For Game Week 10 to 12 for less than 4.9 million, Gay, Mitchell, Johnny, or Doherty? I'd say Doherty, but I don't think Spurs will keep a clean sheet in Game Week 9, or should I say 10? I'm losing track of the game weeks. But I think he's got a lot of attacking potential, and in Game Week 11 he could do very well as well. Would you bring in Trossard until Game Week 12? I mean, honestly, not just until Game Week 12. You could have him for a longer time than that. I'd be more inclined to get Trossard a bit later on. I think Spurs could limit Brighton. I think Brighton will score, maybe a goal or 2, but I don't see Brighton scoring 3+ goals like they did at Anfield. So, yeah, maybe after, in Game Week 11, that's the best time to get Trossard, but they've got some bad fixtures in general. Best replacement for Salah, KDB, or Foden? For me, KDB. I think he's so consistent and he is the best premium midfielder. And if it wasn't for Haaland being so good, everyone would be captaining KDB at this point. So, yeah, it would be KDB. But what I like about Foden is that he's matching, if not kind of surpassing a lot of these premium assets, and he's only 8 million. So, what you could do is go for Foden, and then that enables you to go for Kane up front. So, it's a tough question. In isolation, though, if budget isn't an issue, KDB. Didn't captain Haaland, but Salah, right now, I'm 3.5 million in the world, so you know how terrible season after my first campaign was successful. But this is the thing, and look, I know it's very frustrating. I'm also frustrated at my rank, but you've got to laugh it off sometimes in terms of, you know, the kind of bad luck that happens. And sometimes there are 50-50 decisions that it can go the other way, and sometimes they will go in your favour, but honestly, it's all about living and learning, and you can't get everything right. And I know there's a lot of managers or a group that can consistently finish in high ranks, but it's very difficult to achieve. Good differential midfielder. I'll go through the list now and give you an answer. So we'll sort this out by ownership. We'll check midfielders and we will check the ownership. So differential. I think Trossard looks really good. Yeah, 6.1% ownership is still a really good differential for me. In terms of other midfielders, I think Rodrigo, now that he's back from his injury. You look at the fixtures, Crystal Palace and Arsenal, not too great though. That does put me off, but I like the Leicester and Fulham games, especially Leicester. But yeah, Rodrigo's another one. And let's see if we can get one more name for you. Jarrod Bowen's only 3.8% owned. What? Okay, that surprised me. I thought his ownership was way higher. Jarrod Bowen, there you go. Against Fulham and Southampton next. Those are your top 3 midfielders, differential midfielders. I think that's a pretty solid answer to your question. Is an early move from Andres to Almiron okay before the price rises? Honestly, I wouldn't do it. Almiron could be a great punt for you in the next few weeks, and that's fine. But honestly, if you can still afford him after the price rise, just wait. You know, injuries can happen in midweek to another player, and you might have fires to put out. I would wait. Pope to Gaeta or burn transfer? I wouldn't do Pope to Gaeta personally, but if you are looking to upgrade other positions soon and you need the money, then that's not a bad way to do it, but I would keep Pope. Tony, last 5 games, 3 goals, 0 assists, all 3 in the same game. Yeah, that is a good point. Tony tends to be quite consistent, though. This season, maybe not so much. He's kind of very streaky. He gets the returns in that one game, but yeah, I'd say that's a good point. And look, I would rather have players who spread the goals and assists in multiple games. But to be honest, you know, if you still get the amount of same points as, you know, getting all of them in one game, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But that is obviously worth noting. And also, I think another kind of reason behind the Tony maybe lack of form, you could say, is also the formation switch and playing up front with Mbeumo. I don't think that benefits him too much. Haaland triple captain for a double game week and he blanks both games. That would be classic FPL. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Or he plays one game and he gets injured in like the first 30-40 minutes. Happened to me with Mane a few years ago. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. Especially if you do World Cup Fantasy. Yes, I'll be looking to do that as well. If obviously I'm available and free, I will be looking to do it as well. But I appreciate your kind words. Made the grave mistake of selling Jesus for Mitrovic, even though I told everyone to keep him. I blame Potter for not telling us that Cucurella was injured on time. I think there was news over the last few days that Cucurella was injured. I saw it a lot flying around in the chat and stuff like that, and that I don't think. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I don't think Potter actually mentioned anything about the Cucurella injury, but I'm pretty sure he was flagged in FPL as well before the deadline. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, like, he's a really good player, fantastic value, but I still think Mitrovic is a better FPL option because of the price, but obviously not looking too good recently. Do you play Ultimate Fan? I don't play it. I don't play it, Maxi. Is 7 Tuesday and 8 Wednesday not ideal then? That's fine as well, Tech. It is fine as well. Basically, as long as you have a kind of balance between 2 days and you have at least 5 players on both, that's fine. Should I get rid of Diaz? If so, who? I mean, look, Diaz is still a good option, but I would get rid of him. And look, you've got Zaha, Maddison, Bowen as well could actually become an option. You've got Foden, and also Trossard, who's even cheaper. So I think one of those 5 midfielders looks good. Don't forget Saka. Of course, he blanks in 12, but he's a great option. Martinelli to Trossard or too soon? I wouldn't do it this week. I think Martinelli has a better chance of returns against Trent than Trossard against Spurs. So I would keep Martinelli for now and then maybe get Trossard in Game Week 12. Should we bring in Liverpool assets like Trent in Game Week 12? Once again, it's kind of having the flexibility to do it. So if you want to go for it and Liverpool are looking better, then yes, you can have that option in your back pocket. But right now, based on what we've seen, I'd say no. I wouldn't go for Salah. I wouldn't go for Trent or any Liverpool asset. Firmino is looking like the best one. Bowen instead of Diaz, yep, I would do that at the moment. But remember, Bowen, I know he looked good in the Game Week 8 as well, but that was literally in Game Week 9 his first proper haul, and the same happened with Son as well the week before that. But I would go for Bowen instead of Diaz. Should I keep Zaha? Yes. So Maximin to Trossard to catch the price rise. I would just wait just in case, but I would do the transfer. I think Trossard is an upgrade. I have Ward in goal. That's fair enough. I mean, if he gets 2 points, he should be happy with it, I think, the way he's been doing. Did Trossard impress you? Of course. I mean, scoring a hat-trick against Liverpool at Anfield, the way he ripped Trent Alexander-Arnold in the process. Any other assets that look good is Stupinian, as mentioned before in the chat. Gross is still, really good performances and everything, but I'm not sure about his FPL prospects. I mean, the one I don't like too much, despite him being so good so far this season, is McAllister as an FPL option. He's on penalties, and that's what you really like about him. I think Gross could do well, actually, under the new manager. So, really, it's kind of the same old options. It would be Gross, probably in third place is Stupinian, and then Trossard, who obviously took all the headlines. Tony to Wilson or Aubameyang? Thanks, Wilson. I would go for Wilson. 550k to 770k with Maddison, and my hero Ward gets his first start for me and the clean sheet of getting me to a grey arrow possibly. You're asking for a bit too much there, Amir. I think Nottingham Forest will score, but Leicester will win the game. Let's wait and see though. How popular is the FPL Cup competition? I mean, everyone's kind of involved. You automatically get entered into it. You can also do some FPL Cups in terms of your leagues and stuff, and they're kind of fairly popular, but I haven't done them recently. I feel like Haaland and KDB is like Salah and Mane from previous seasons. Everyone owns and captains Haaland, Salah, and KDB Mane just consistently ticks along just as well. That's a really good comparison. It does confuse me because Salah is now the new Mane and vice versa, but yeah, that's a good way of summing it up. Captain Wilson, I don't think I'd captain him. He is facing Brentford, and I could see Newcastle scoring a few goals, but I wouldn't captain him. Yeah, there's going to be World Cup Fantasy, and it will be very similar to UCL Fantasy and Euro Fantasy Football. Not sure why Luis Diaz got benched, but there were a lot of doubts about the third Liverpool attacker heading into the game. Would you recommend selling Trent? There's not that many alternatives, though. So you've got Trippier, Saliba, Cancelo already. And look, you could go to James as the other kind of standout. But other than that, who could you really go to? A City defender looks good, but they blank in 12. And also, they didn't look that great defensively today. So I would probably keep Trent because he could be a really good option from Game Week 12 onwards. But honestly, you could go to James. That would be my answer to you, Islam. Also, is it worth keeping Sterling? I mean, with the fixtures in mind, yes, and he probably will be Chelsea's best defensive asset, but I still think there are better options. I'd rather go to Foden, Saka, Bowen, not to mention Trossard, Maddison, and Zaha. And then you've got Son, Salah, and KDB. So I would probably sell him, but nothing wrong with keeping him. Sell or keep Rashford? I'd probably keep for now, but I was expecting him actually to get a return today. Planning to do a -4 to Trent and read out for Gay and Zaha. Good call. Yeah, I mean, it is a good set of transfers to be fair, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trent gets an assist against Arsenal. Gay, clean sheet against Leeds, I mean, it's possible, but Zaha is obviously going to be the one that could really make the -4 hit worth it for you, Canal. If that's the only way you can get Zaha, I would go for it. And by the way, Superstar, let me know which players you're looking at to get in for Rashford and your overall midfield, because then maybe the answer would change for that question. My midfield at the moment is Bowen, Martinelli, Andreas, KDB, and Diaz. Diaz is most likely going to sink in price tonight, so I'm not sure who to go for. I have Saka, Foden, Maddison, or Zaha. For me, it has to be Maddison or Zaha. Foden obviously looked incredible today, but he blanks in 12. Saka has been quite consistent between game weeks 4 and 8, but I would go for Maddison or Zaha. On 75, Maddison captain, Iverson in goal. I think 80 plus points is definitely doable. Is KDB good for long term? Definitely. And if it wasn't for the blank, he would be in my team, to be honest. Apart from FPL, what is your favourite fantasy game? UCL Fantasy, definitely. And I do videos for that as well. I do like F1 Fantasy too. You know, those are my top 3 favourites, but it has to be UCL Fantasy, which might even be my favourite overall. Is Wilson a good replacement for Mitrovic? Yes, he is. My concern with him is the injuries. He is a very injury-prone player. And you also have Isak, who could be back fairly soon. When Man City will play Nottingham Forest and Leeds at home, they already played Nottingham Forest at home. It was part of the hat-trick of hat-tricks for Erling Haaland. As for Leeds, I'd have to double-check that when they play them at home. So they play them away in Boxing Day, and they play them at home on the 6th of May, game week 35. But honestly, with Haaland, I'm looking at double game weeks for him. And, you know, triple captaining him, and if he plays the games, I mean, he could reach 30 plus points, I think. Is Martial a shout? Yes, definitely. My concern is him starting the game or not. I think Rashford might still, but I mean, Rashford was quite ineffective today as the lone striker. He is better on the left when he drifts into the centre like he did against Arsenal and when he's playing against the high line. So, look, if Martial starts from game week 10, he could become a really popular option very quickly, especially when the fixtures turn for United. So yeah, I think so. I think Martial's a great shout. Do you think Trossard is legit? Yeah, that is a good point. Obviously, he's not going to come up against a struggling defender and a struggling defence every single game. I wouldn't go for him against Spurs. I think he can score, and he did it last season, but I would mainly target Trossard afterwards. So if we look at Brighton's fixtures, Brentford away, which is marked grey on the FDR, so a number 3, I would look at that in particular. But honestly, Trossard's a good buy now. I'm not going to deny that. He's a great differential as well. I like his price. He's about to go up to 6.7. But yeah, Brentford especially, that is when I think he could really, really do well. And he's got a good long-term fixtures. But obviously, we do have the unlimited transfers after Game Week 16 and heading into Game Week 17. Thank you, Islam. I appreciate it. Are you going to do World Cup fantasy content? Potentially. Obviously, I'll wait and see because I could be unavailable during that time period. But if I'm available, I most likely will be doing the content. Besides Zaha, which Palace midfielders are you looking at? None. Honestly, it's just Zaha. He is by far the standout, and I wouldn't look at anyone else. If I had to pick one, you know, I'd probably be resigned to Eze or something like that, but it's just Zaha. Did you replace KDB for Son? On the wildcard, I did, and I talked about this as well, and I always said, for me, KDB is the better option in isolation, and if I had to pick one for game week 10, or should I say 9 specifically, it probably would have been KDB, but with Son, I've got a differential captaincy option in game week 11. Well, now I'm probably put off that anyway. And Son was looking in great form in the international break as well. And I also like having that premium midfielder slot just in case. Of course, I could have gone for Kevin De Bruyne, but I also have to think about the blank game week 12 fixture between Arsenal and City. And I already have 3 Arsenal plus City players. Joe Willock for Saka to earn some funds. I wouldn't get Willock in. If I had to go for any Newcastle asset, it would be Wilson up front, Trippier in the defence, and then you've got Pope in goal, but I wouldn't go for Joe Willock. Martinelli replacement? Trossard. I think Trossard's a really good replacement for him. It's a tough one. I think Argentina or Brazil. Yeah, that would be my prediction. But Europe, obviously, since 2002, that was the last time a South American team won it. You know, they've dominated, but I think Argentina and Brazil are the two best teams in the world, but the best team doesn't always win. That is the thing. Did I miss a question? No, I think we've covered everything. So yeah, thank you to everyone. If you've got any more questions or comments, then be sure to let me know. Down in the comment section, we'll be talking about my Game Week 10 team selection, the transfer tips, and much more in the days to come. There will also be a deadline stream for UCL Fantasy on the Tuesday, so be sure to tune in for that. And there's going to be a Best Limitless Team video dropping tomorrow for Matchday 3. I know a lot of you are looking to play the chip then, so all of that will be very helpful for you. Not for me, France. Well, not for me, Tech. I don't think France will win it. Apart from the World Cup curse, and look, they have a great team on paper, but if you look at their results, I mean, very, very inconsistent. They lost to Denmark twice, and they aren't convincing. You know, the overall performances isn't that great. I think Brazil and Argentina are better teams, but of course, the best team, like I said, doesn't always win it. It's about who performs in those 7 games. My midfield, Trossard, Zaha, Maddison, Martinelli, Foden. Should I swap anyone for Bowen? No, honestly, I wouldn't sell any of them. Maybe Martinelli, because he blanks in Game Week 12, but honestly, I don't think you should get rid of any of the other ones. It probably would be Martinelli, if anything. How long will Mitrovic be out for? We don't know yet, so wait for the press conferences and then you can reassess. Thoughts on double Palace defence? Not for me. They've only kept 1 clean sheet all season. I would just have 1, and that's enough. So either Anderson or Gay, if Anderson returns from injury, and you've also got Gaeta in goal. Thank you, Sea-Dog. I appreciate it. Dallo is a good option still. I know he got carded today and conceded 6, but you know he looked really good in the international break, and he has been doing well for United recently. So yeah, he's another one to consider, but not right now with the fixtures. They play Everton next, which isn't too shabby. I could see a clean sheet for Man United, but then if we look at the fixtures straight after that, it's not looking too great. So let me just bring up Diego Dallo. So yeah, the fixtures after Newcastle at home, not really expecting a clean sheet. Tottenham, Chelsea, same thing. Then you've got West Ham and stuff like that, and that could happen. You know, there could be some clean sheets down the line, but yeah, I think Diego Dallo, probably United's best asset to go for right now, apart from someone like Martial or Rashford, who could also emerge once again as great options. But yeah, I wouldn't trust United that much defensively still, despite obviously their really good run recently. All right, so thank you to everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. Let's try to get this stream to over 150 likes. We've got already over 100, so thank you very much, and I appreciate it. I'll be talking to all of you very, very soon, and you can subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. We're very close to 15,000 subscribers, just a little over 100 away from that milestone, and we obviously had a lot of growth over the last month or so, I believe, so thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, and the Discord server, as well as the FPL League. All of that stuff is there, so thank you to all the channel members, the patrons, and all the subscribers and viewers. I appreciate you all very, very much, and I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 10 and the rest of the season. If you've had a bad start, don't worry about it. There's still a long way to go, and I'll see you next time.